There are no strings on me.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy Carnage, your Primitive AK here, back with another video for you guys today. Today we're going to be covering my overall best settings that you should be using for Warzone, whether you're playing on controller or controller on PC or controller on console. These are hands down the best settings that I use that I feel help me out, and I figured it's best if I share these settings with you guys for anyone that is curious about what a certain setting does or what setting may control a certain area of the game. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the tutorial. Let's try to get 50 likes on this video while we're at it. It's completely free, helps the video get noticed. So first things first, obviously you're going to want to make sure that you're on controller as your input device. Unless you're really good at mouse and keyboard, you can certainly swap over if you're on PC. Obviously if you're on console, this will be defaulted to controller. Field of view, I recommend you put this at 105. I know some people do play at 120, but there is really no need to do that. And your ADS field of view, make sure it's on affected as well. That way your field of view will also change when you aim down sight, because if you leave this on independent, your aim down sight field of view will actually go back to 80 field of view instead of the 105 that I have set here. So make sure that's on affected. Brightness I leave on 48. You'll have to change this based on your monitor. I have a different monitor, which is an IPO monitor, so things seem a bit darker, which is why I put that at 48. Your skip introduction movie, I leave that on enabled, so that way every time you boot the game, you don't have to see that ridiculous cutscene every single time. Subtitles, I leave this on enabled. I like knowing what's going on throughout the game. A lot of times I can't hear it because sometimes I may be talking to friends in Discord. So somebody may say like an enemy precision airstrike is inbound, and for some reason I may not hear that because I'm not paying attention. So seeing the subtitles on the screen actually is a big help for me. Colorblind, I don't use any colorblind setting despite what a lot of streamers say. I don't really feel there's a need for it unless you just want your game looking a tad bit different. Minimap shape, leave this on square. You're actually getting more visualization of your radar when you have it on square, so I recommend you put that on square. Minimap rotation on enabled. Compass cardinal direction text, leave it on letters. Text chat enabled so you can see the trash talk. Profanity disabled. Dismemberment effects on enabled as well. Frames per second counter, this is just telemetry data. You don't really, for anyone that's on console, you don't have to worry about this, but for anyone that's on PC, I'm not going to go through these really don't affect your game whatsoever. It's just data you can track while you're playing PC, so you don't really have to see any of that. For anyone that's on PC and are curious what graphic settings that I use, if you're not on PC, you can skip ahead to the audio section where you guys can go ahead and check my audio settings. So if you don't want to see graphic settings, you're on console, you can go ahead and skip this section and skip right over to audio and controller. Display mode, I leave this on full screen. Display adapter, obviously your graphics card. Screen refresh rate, I have a 144 Hz monitor, so I leave that on there. I actually play on 2K graphics rather than 1080p, despite what most people do. Aspect ratio on automatic. VSync disabled. Custom frame rate limit on unlimited. And menu settings, I have it on 60, out of focus on 30 frames as well. NVIDIA highlights, I leave this on disabled. It's basically tanking your frames. Reflex low latency on enabled. Restart shaders, that's obviously something you don't need to worry about, and display gamma sets default at 2.2. Streaming quality on normal, texture resolution on normal, texture filter anisotropic on normal, particle quality on high, bullet impacts and sprays enabled, tessellation on all, on-demand texture streaming enabled, daily download limit, these are all default, you don't need to worry about that. Shadow map resolution on low, cache bot shadows on disabled, cache sun shadows on disabled, particle lighting on low, ray tracing disabled, ambient occlusion on both, SSR on high, anti-aliasing on filmic SMAA T2X, depth of field on enabled, filmic strength on 1.0, motion blur completely disabled, film grain. I actually might turn this off completely. I feel like there's really no need for the film grain, so this is entirely up to you. It really doesn't do much for you, so if you want, you can just completely turn that off. Dynamic resolution on disabled, dynamic resolution frame rate target on 60 as well. And for your audio settings, you're going to want to put this on boost high. This is going to help us so that way you can hear certain sounds at greater distances. So this certainly helps you out with hearing footsteps a lot as well. So for anyone that plays on a headset like myself, this will certainly help you out in hearing those footstep audios a lot easier, and also hearing other activity throughout the map as well. And obviously your master volume and music volume, dialogue, and effects, you're going to have to change this based on your headset. I don't really touch this too much. I kind of just set it to this and just left it as is, and then if I need to, I can adjust it from my mix amp audio. Hit marker sound effects, I leave that on classic. Voice chat enabled. Voice chat device, you're gonna have to change that based on your computer settings. And I have my microphone set to push to talk as well. So pretty much nothing too crazy here. You don't have to worry about too much of this. It's just a matter of changing your master volume to your liking and your audio mix. Those are really the two things that matter the most. Now for the controller settings, this is the most important part that I'm sure a lot of people want to know. My button layout is set to default. Stick layout on default as well. Now for anyone that plays on a SCUF controller like myself, I do play on a SCUF Impact with 4 paddles on the back. I leave this on default because of my paddles. They basically do all the work for me in terms of those directional buttons and whatnot. But if you're on a standard controller, I recommend you put this on tactical. But like I said, if you're on a SCUF, put this on default. Stick layout, don't touch. In vertical look is on disabled. My dead zone, I have this on 0.05. This is default setting. You won't really need to touch this at all unless you have dead zone stick drift issues. So don't touch that setting if you don't have any stick drift issues whatsoever. Horizontal and vertical sensitivity are set to 6. This is something you're going to have to play with as well. I can't recommend the perfect sensitivity to you because every player is different. My best friend, for example, he plays on max sensitivity. That's something that he's comfortable with, and it's something that he's very good at, but it's something you're going to have to play around with. What I can recommend, however, is that lower sensitivity is obviously much better than higher sensitivity. ADS sensitivity multiplier, I have this on 0.85, and aim response curve type set to standard. Some people do play on linear, but it kind of feels a bit weird, so I just kind of leave it on default. Controller vibration on disabled. This is actually going to throw off your aim, so make sure you have vibration off. There's no need to have it on. Aim assist is on standard as well. I don't use precision or focusing. I did cover these previously in another video quite a bit of some time ago, but if you just want standard aim assist, nothing too crazy that's going on, standard is going to get the job done. Scale aim assist with FOV, to leave this on enabled. This is going to tweak your aim assist based off of how far the target actually is, and also it accounts for your field of view settings as well. So definitely leave that on enabled. Weapon mount activation, ADS and melee. Weapon mount movement exit, leave that on enabled. Aim down sight behavior, hold. Equipment, hold. Use reload behavior. Make sure this is set to contextual tap if you're playing Warzone. What this does is when you run up to pick up an item, normally if you're on controller, you have to press and hold square on PS4 or PS5 to actually pick up the item. This is going to help it so that way you just tap the button instead of holding it. That way it actually helps so that way you can actually pick up weapons faster if an enemy is following you and you're both trying to fight for the weapon. You could just hit tap, and meanwhile they have to hit hold, so you're going to actually get the weapon faster than them. Depleted ammo weapon switch on enabled. Armor plate behavior set to apply all. If you want, you could also leave it on apply 1, but apply all is enough to get the job done, so that way you can apply all armor rather than just holding the button the whole time. Slide behavior, leave that on tap. Auto move forward on disable. Automatic sprint is on automatic tactical sprint, that way you don't have to mash your L3 button and damage your controller. Vehicle camera recenter on enabled, and parachute auto deploy on enabled as well. Pretty much that's going to do it for the most part. Crossplay, I'll leave this on enabled as well. If you have run into the issue of cheaters or hackers, whatever it is, if you're on console, you can certainly leave this on and disabled, and that way you won't run into that many cheaters. However, if you're not on PS4 or PS5, I don't recommend turning crossplay off, just because of the fact that, and I hate to admit this to the Xbox players and PC players, there's far more players on PS4 and PS5, so that's why I recommend, if you're not on PlayStation, leave this on enabled at all times. But regardless, that's about it for my settings. These are the settings that I like to use. I feel help me out in Warzone, so hopefully they help you guys out. If you have a certain question about my settings or something that doesn't make sense, or if you have a better recommendation for a certain setting, make sure you guys leave it in the comments box down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's your boy Carnage, your Primitive AK, signing out. Peace out, fellas.